Evet ve kongremize başlıyoruz efendim ikinci günde. Kongremizin sağlıklı işleyişi için bazı bilgileri yine paylaşmak zorundayım. Kongremizin program akışından ve oturumlardan an be an haberdar olmak için resmi sosyal medya hesaplarımızdan bizi takip edebilirsiniz. 27 Kalite Kongresi ve Sürdürülebilir Ortak Gelecek hashtagleriyle değerli görüşlerinizi bekliyoruz. Ayrıca akıllı telefonlarınıza indireceğiniz mobil uygulamamız sayesinde kongre ile ilgili bilgilere detaylı olarak ulaşabilirsiniz. Katıldığınız oturumları mobil aplikasyon üzerinden değerlendirerek önümüzdeki yıllarda düzenlenecek kongrelerin daha da başarılı olması için kaydede desteklerinizi bekliyoruz. Bu arada belirtmekte fayda görüyorum tekrar. Anketlerimize yanıt veren konuklarımız arasından yapılacak çekilişle gelecek sene kongremize davetli olarak katılacak 3 kişiden biri siz olabilirsiniz. Yine çekilişle belirlenmek üzere zorlu PSM müzikalleri için 2 kişilikte bilet sahibi olma imkanı var. Bunun için anketlere cep telefonunu yazmanızı özellikle rica ediyoruz. Evet ve buradan özel oturumumuza geçeceğiz. Ancak bu oturumumuzun İngilizce olacağını tekrar hatırlatmak isterim. Kulaklık ihtiyacı olan arkadaşlarımızın, dinleyicilerimizin bu arada gidip alma fırsatı var hala. Simultane tercüme için kulaklıkları alabilirsiniz kapıda. Sayın konuklar, bugünün açılış programında iyi yaşam hareketi öncülerinden Ogilvy Health and Wellness Global Practice lideri Marion Mcdonald'ı ağırlıyoruz. Öncelikle kendisiyle ilgili bazı bilgileri vermek istiyorum. Marion Mcdonald, Ogilvy'de dijital sağlık, ilaç, beslenme, resmi kurumlar, özel hastaneler, sigorta, cilt bakımı gibi pek çok alanda uzmanlardan oluşan global bir ekibe liderlik ediyor. Kariyerinde çeşitli çok uluslu hızlı tüketim ürünleri ve ilaç şirketleri için pazarlama müdürlüğü yapan ve önemli başarılara imza atan Marion Mcdonald, 2008 yılında Ogilvy ailesine katılmış. Ogilvy'de güzellik, gıda, otomotiv, ilaç, turizm, çalışan deneyimi gibi birçok alanda markaların küresel iletişim stratejilerini yönetmiş, pazarlama alanında yatırım getirisine bana parayı göster yaklaşımıyla ünlü olan Marion Mcdonald, 2015 yılında etkinlik ölçüm eğitimine yönelik hizmetleri için AMEK Hayat Boyu Üye ödülüne layık görülmüş. 19 yıl boyunca pek çok farklı ülkede görev yapan Marion Mcdonald, uluslararası pazarlama alanındaki yüksek lisansını kapsamlı bir kültürler arası anlayışla desteklemiş. Aynı zamanda müzik tiyatrosu yönetmeni, sanatçısı ve köpek davranışları alanında da diploma sahibi çok yönlü bir konuşmacı bizlerle birlikte. Evet, sizleri daha fazla bekletmeden alkışlarınızla Marion Mcdonald'ı sahneye davet etmek istiyorum.
Günaydın. And now I will change back to English. I'm thrilled to be with you today. It's an honor to be here to speak to the Society, although I was briefly scared because Emine, our Ogilvy leader here in Turkey, told me that I was to continue the dance with a traditional dance performance as I began. Not something I dressed for. I'm here to talk today about wellness. Wellness is something that has moved in the last few years from being considered a nice treat, an afternoon at the spa or the hammam here, or some time out to ourselves on the yoga mat, to a way to cope with the rigors of our modern lifestyle. So in 2017, Ogilvy set out to do a qualitative study of who are the pioneers in the field of wellness and what are the new trends that we see in this space. So what I'm going to share with you briefly is some of those new trends and some of those really interesting pioneers in this space of wellness and what we've learned about it today. And these wellness, the wellness obviously comes from a starting tradition in faith healers, in science, and of course in wisdom, ancient wisdoms. And the emergence of wellness that we see today is really an interesting blend of all three of those. And it's in response to the fact that our lifestyles are not very healthy. We know we're struggling with a society that places too much pressure on us. We're very immobile, we spend 90% of our time indoors, and we don't eat well in response to these challenges. For the first time in our lives, non-communicable diseases kill more people than communicable diseases. And that's a new threshold for society that we have crossed. that we now die of things that are perfectly preventable in many cases through lifestyle changes. Some frightening statistics for you to put it in perspective globally is 2 billion of us are overweight. I stand here as a shining example of that. Many of us are at risk of heart attack from overwork, and I'm sure many of you can identify with that out here today as well. 80% of our adolescents are insufficiently active, and largely because of the demands of the study system under which they labour indoors. The majority of us are sleep deprived or don't work to our natural circadian rhythms, whether that be a morning person or an evening person. And of course, if you're unfortunate enough to be in the US, you have a very high likelihood of being addicted to some kind of prescription opioid. Although now you're close enough to go to Canada, you can get some marijuana to relax. I'm, by the way, not American, I'm Australian, and I live in London and partake in none of that. So, the problem is us. We still have the ape brain and the mentality that we have grown up with through the millennium, but our lifestyles have evolved in the opposite direction in a very unhealthy way for us to cope. So I mentioned some of those causal factors. Here, of course, is a shining example of the opposite, Fauja Singh. Fauja Singh's still going strong. He's 107 years old now, and Britain's oldest marathon runner, has set many records in the over 90s marathon running category, if you can imagine. Is anyone here a marathon runner? Great, good luck when you're 90. Hope you can overtake Fauja Singh's record. But of course, this is a person who does it and claims to do so on a lifestyle of very lean food, largely vegetarian lifestyle, no alcohol, no cigarettes, a minimum of 8 hours sleep, which of course all of you get to enjoy too, don't you? Yeah, not so much. This guy, Jim Mellon, he works at Burnbrae Asset Management, if you're familiar with him, or if you're not. He introduced me very recently to some interesting work in longevity. Who are the players who are investing in longevity? Now, I mention longevity, controversial as we're talking about wellness, because wellness is, of course, not purely about living longer. Wellness is about flourishing at any age, not necessarily with the goal of longevity. So wellness is more focused on the quality of life at any age. But Jim Mellon is specifically interested in how we improve our longevity. He looks at the drug companies who invest in this space. And he looks at some of the new technologies and drugs that are enabling us to live longer. Anyone here a dog owner? You know, a dog owner? Yeah, a few of you out there. Yeah, so am I. He also told me about a drug that's already in trial in dogs around longevity. This is 2 of my dogs. I have 2 dogs. They're my fur kids. So Jim Mellon introduced me to a drug called rapamycin. Rapamycin is a drug that's already in canine trials with a view to expanding into human trials in the near future, and it has been shown already in dogs to extend lifespan by up to 50%. And in fact, there is now a dog aging project that you can enroll your own dog in if it meets certain criteria, and test out how that impacts your dog. But this is a really interesting area. Drug companies now starting to invest in drugs that could extend healthy lives for us. Healthy, productive lives, and this is where well-being becomes so important. Because to have a healthy, productive life, it also needs to be an enjoyable life and a more holistically rewarding life for us, rather than simply longer in period of time. And a lot of authors are picking up on this subject now, writing about the art of flourishing. As I said, wellness is flourishing at any age. So, as we look at some wellness themes, these are 5 themes that emerged for us as we conducted this study last year, is to understand what's going on at the fringes of wellness, and how do we start to see companies building this in to their brand offer, their experiences in companies. So I'm going to spend a moment walking through each of these 5 themes. I'm going to show you some examples, a couple of video cases and brand examples of how this is starting to come to life as well. So the first of these, let's linger on these for a moment, radical compassion. Radical compassion is about reconnecting, of course, mind, body, and spirit, and being kinder to ourselves, finding moments of kindness in here. And some beautiful examples of this we're starting to see are happening in the school system. This is a school, I used to work in Hong Kong. I have recently moved from Hong Kong to London after 13 years out in Hong Kong. This is a school I personally visited when we were conducting the study, the Renaissance College in Hong Kong. I imagine Hong Kong's system is probably not too different to your own. Very stressed kids who attend school for 6 hours a day, do 3 to 5 hours of homework a night, may go to study sessions afterwards, or have private tutoring additionally to boost their exam results. Hong Kong also, unfortunately, has one of the highest child suicide rates, largely due to the pressures of the education system. So this is a school that started investigating how they could bring mindfulness into the school system to reduce stress and help the children better cope with their environment. And so quite a pioneering school principal and leader of the program invested quite a lot of time slowly in training the school staff members, in testing it in classrooms, slowly expanding the program, introducing it to parents. And now children coming to school 20 minutes earlier will participate in mindfulness exercises to focus them, to give them calming strategies, to make it through the day, to respond to periods of stress better, and therefore perform better in their academic work. And the school was on the path, when I interviewed them last year, of trying to set up more rigor in testing and proving the impact this program is having on academic results. Interestingly, when I asked them about launching it to parents, they said when they did their first parent meeting, they were most nervous that parents would not be impressed that their children were losing 20 minutes a day to mindfulness exercises instead of further academic study. So they went along to the first parent meeting, ready to launch it, introduced the concept, expected the questions around what are they missing out on for 20 minutes a day, that's a lot of time per week. Instead, the questions were primarily, why hasn't my kid got this yet? Why hasn't every class got this? And stories coming back from parents about how the children were applying those same skills in family situations with their own parents and helping them to calm. So a wonderful impact of it when we see it at work. So this is the kind of thing that I work for a company, I work for Ogilvy. Ogilvy in London also has a good emphasis around mindfulness. We run programs internally to teach people coping strategies in moments of stress. We have a massage therapist that comes in once a week that you can book short 15 or 30-minute appointments with. We have counsellors that help you in times of stress. So it's an attitude that we're starting to see played out in our own companies, and more companies are considering how can they keep healthy, well, and calm employees who can better cope with stress as a sustainable workforce. Coming back to the Middle East, and this lady, Jumana Al-Darwish, saw an opportunity to really build on that radical compassion in family situations. She created the Happy Box. The Happy Box was a response to realizing that parents and kids didn't have enough time connecting simply as families around fun activities. So she's created a once-a-month subscription box model where you get sent out a box each month containing activities for parents and children to complete together. So a lovely example of that turning into a product offer as well. So that's radical compassion. The second one I want to share with you is embodied wisdom. Of course, if you remember back in history, Descartes separated the mind and so the reason and the body. Pardon me, prioritizing reason. Embodied wisdom therapists reconnect those two and say there is no body wellness without engaging the mind around it. So how can we reconnect body and mind for healing? This is an excellent project. It's a Danish project, the Wounded Warriors Project, where quite recently, I think this is only in the last 7-8 years, this project kicked off, that it was recognizing that soldiers returning with post-traumatic stress disorder were often disassociating between mind and body. And so it was a project that used the Royal Danish Ballet to help soldiers reconnect with their bodies through exercise and through stretching techniques and movement techniques that help them reconnect stress to relaxing physical exercises to help them cope with these scenarios. So a very interesting example of a social project that helped with healing through physical, reconnecting mind and body here. Another one, a very tangible product offering from our client Philips. Philips had been working for some time on the fact that breastfeeding is an extremely physically stressful activity on mothers' bodies. And the posture typically for sitting in breastfeeding is very uncomfortable, produces stresses, stress hormones, often for women struggling with breastfeeding. So reinvented the breast pump and the way to use it in a much more comfortable way that actually allowed mothers to alter their position entirely, to have a more comfortable physical experience, and re-engineered the breast pump so that its operation helped to relax you and produce more oxytocin. Oxytocin is, of course, the feel-good hormone. So a breast pump that increases oxytocin release, which of course helps us to feel better, which helps to increase milk production as well. So here's a product offering building in some of that reconnecting mind and body for a more positive experience. This is havening. Dr. Rudin in New York is pioneering a technique called havening. And havening also is a reconnecting mind and body using physical touch to help people suffering from some kind of trauma or stress or phobia to go back into those experiences. And then he uses touch, I mean literally physically touches people while they're in those stressful moments to reconnect mind and body around those stresses or phobias to help treat them. I won't linger on him, but very interesting technique. There's still, in some of these areas, there's not a lot of published work yet. They are still new theories in the field of wellness, but an example of how they're coming into play. The third area is around spaces. I mentioned before we spend 90% of our time indoors, much like you will be all day today in a darkened room. So somatic spaces, how do we re-engineer the spaces around us for greater well-being? This, interestingly, is a cancer centre for cancer treatment victims who are going through the process of healing, or at this stage the radical therapies required often to treat cancer. And it's an example of a space that's been redesigned in the UK to be a more welcoming recovery space during cancer treatment. I spoke to a guy called Ingo Schweder. Ingo Schweder is based in Thailand, and he was himself a cancer survivor and had taken everything he'd learned from being a cancer patient and that experience of spending a lot of time indoors in the wrong spaces, and brought it to his profession, which was design and architecture, and now launched a practice called GoCo, Wellness Resorts. And GoCo, has anyone been to a wellness resort? That kind of gives away that you don't work quite as hard, but you invest a bit in yourself as well. Excellent. So if you go to a wellness resort, entirely different experience from your typical holiday vacation or hotel. In a wellness resort, typically you spend 90% of your time in the resort, whereas in vacation you typically spend the majority of your time outside of the hotel, just come back in to eat and sleep. So in a wellness resort, there's much more thought given to how you experience spaces, how you move through all the different aspects of it, from gardens that grow the vegetables that are often served in the wellness resort, and you having the chance to sit out in those gardens or sometimes be involved in those gardening projects, to how you move through to library spaces to relax and read, to treatment rooms, to sleeping and eating spaces. So he's brought all of those principles of well-being now into the world of design, and designs wellness resorts around, assuming the fact that you need to have an entire well-being journey within one building. The next area, a different stage of life, is dementia, sadly a very fast-growing illness afflicting a great population, a greater percentage of the population. And this is a Dutch project, the Dementia Village. The Dementia Village was redesigned around when people lost their memory. What era? So residents of the village live fairly freely. In fact, I'm going to play you a short video. it's very telling that the government helps to invest in this because it improves quality of care but reduces cost of care for dementia patients. And if one of my parents were diagnosed with dementia, I'd certainly love them to end up somewhere like this, where they're able to move around more freely, have less dependency on drugs and medical care, but feel more comfortable. So a very forward-thinking use of design. But from, we've covered dementia, breastfeeding, various age groups, to Mercedes-Benz. I'm going to hear a Mercedes owner. Do we have any Mercedes owners in the audience? No, you're all Ford drivers, of course. I knew it. So Mercedes, in 2018, relaunched the S-Class with a new feature, energizing comfort. So the Mercedes has now been redesigned around offering you a wellness experience. And you will start to see this increasingly. I talk to clients now, even in the airline space, about how can they build in a wellness offer into their brand. So the ultimate horror, being squashed into a metal tube and flying through the sky for 5 to 12 hours, is also considering how can they build a wellness offer into their brand. But let's have a look at the Mercedes. That's enough. Don't want to get you too relaxed out there. My partner and I joke about this. What if one of us is in one mood and the other's in the other, and we have two conflicting moods running in the front of the car? So we don't have a Mercedes, we couldn't agree. All right, now let's come to the millennials. Take it to a younger age group. You were waiting for me to get to the millennials, weren't you? So, the millennials are very into social sharing, as we know. Actually, so am I, to be honest. I'm a bit of an Instagram addict, part millennial trait. But very different kind of sharing is sharing around fitness and social fitness. Now, not traditional fitness necessarily as in workouts, but some healthy activities. Morning Gloryville. Morning Gloryville is a rave. In fact, that first, if I just go back to that first scene here, this is from a Morning Glory rave. Has anyone ever heard of Morning Glory raves? It's a rave you go to from 6 a.m. till 10 a.m. and then you go to work afterwards. It's no alcohol, it's vegan, it's super healthy juices. It's go along and fire yourself up to music, positive vibes, lots of brands participating now in this to reach this audience. Take lots of photos, share it with other strangers, and then off to work. Not that kind of rave that maybe if you're a bit older like me you knew once upon a time. So Morning Gloryville, in case you're thinking this is some weird hippie American stuff, this is the world map of everywhere they've held Morning Glory raves so far. I was quite surprised when they'd even reached Singapore and India now with this concept. So it is a global movement encouraging millennials to get out there and have these morning healthy raves. So Morning Gloryville, if you want to look it up and learn a bit more about it. Wanderlust, one of the largest yoga festivals in the world. These things are becoming as big as Coachella. You know, big music festivals now turn to big mass yoga festivals. And again, I thought this was very American until I started to uncover some of the developing markets and how are we seeing this trend start here. I want to show you a short video from Indonesia, from a client AXA, and how they're taking this concept and making it locally relevant in developing markets. morning glory brave. Whoops, thank you. All right, so we did a burst of energy for you. That was connecting across 3 different cities, as you saw, to get people into these mass fitness, healthy lifestyle exercise. So social fitness, a very big thing. Okay, and the final theme I wanted to share with you is biohacking. Saw a very funny video last night as I was looking up on the latest on biohacking is not about cyborgs who have AI implanted in them. It's anyone who has any artificial technologies implanted them. That could be a pacemaker, that could be automatic drug issuing technologies in here. But I'm going to show you a really interesting example that's starting to manifest now around chip implants. See the hands here? If you look closely in those hands, you'll see 2 little chips implanted, 1 in each hand here. This is starting to embed chips with some personal data inside humans, so hacking ourselves.
I put a little chip implant in my hand, NFC, a near-field communication chip. And with this chip, I have replaced, not all the junk yet, but quite a lot of it, that I now no longer have to carry in my pockets, because it sits here. So here, this is a picture of my hand, and here you see my gym card. Now when I go to the gym, I just swipe my hand at the readers and the doors open. It's my business cards I have sitting here. If someone later on wants to swipe my hand, you get my contacts into your phone. There are different keys and locks for cupboards, padlocks that you can also use this NFC touch technology. You can have discounts in a lot of stores, and you can be membership in different places. The badges you see up here, this is what I use when I go into my office. Nowadays I just swipe my hand at the door. Every morning when I come to the office, there's usually someone standing digging in their handbag or in their pockets, and I say, can I help you? Just open up for them. So it has reduced the friction between myself and technology a little bit. And it's not just the daily friction of having to dig through your pockets. The real friction is when you forget these things at home, right? And you have to go back to get your keys or your access card.
Thank you, we'll cut him off there, but we're starting to see this more and more in mainstream. So here is, in my own industry, someone who's the Mindshare UK CEO has given it a go as well and announced that she's also implanted a chip. Actually, it's kind of tempting when I think about not having to swipe at the office all the time or exchanging business cards. It'd be quite handy. But as we think about other ways of biohacking, this is a very interesting technique that's now available in the UK. I've seen it in London. Cryotherapy, where you actually start to mess with the body's perceptions of the scenario you're in and how it responds to produce metabolic responses to situations. So in cryotherapy, the human immerses themselves into a freezing cold chamber, dressed appropriately for the conditions, of course. You only go into the chamber for 3 minutes, and you're given certain exercises to do that stimulate your body's heart rate and aerobic response to the cold. So a very interesting adaptation of it, but how we start to now interfere with our bodies. And again, a product example, this is Singapore's first DNA fitness program based on your unique DNA and the exercise pattern that's right for you. So doing this in conjunction with an insurance company. All right, I want to wrap up there. I know you've got a lot to get into today, but just to summarize those 5 wellness themes again. Radical compassion is making us feel better mentally. The mindfulness, reducing some of the stress. The embodied wisdom, reconnecting mind and body. The social fitness idea, motivating us through social interaction. Somatic spaces, which heal us despite the indoor lifestyle. And biohacking, new ways of optimizing ourselves. So 5 very interesting trends. What can you take out of it? Well, I've shown you today lots of examples of how companies are starting to build this into their experience and their product. But the first is really tapping into that. It's reinventing innovation from product basis to customer experience. We all know customer experience, or CX as it's often abbreviated to, is critical to how people experience brands nowadays. So as you do your innovation processes, be building in that, how could people experience this and how could we bring a wellness state into this for more sustainable, healthy lifestyles? The second one is behaviour change. Many of these innovations really use a good understanding, a very clever understanding of behaviour change. Social fitness is all about the behavioural principle of homophily. People in a group feel better, belong together. That in itself produces more feel-good hormones. So understanding the behaviour change principles that underline a lot of these. I'm talking with behaviour change experts. In Ogilvy, we've built a specialist behaviour change practice now where we bring a lot of behavioural change thinkers to help solve brand challenges. And finally is integrating some of these pioneers into your innovation process. So looking for, if you're building in wellness in any ways, how can you bring some of these really interesting pioneers and their thinking into your innovation process through design thinking experiential workshops to come up with the crazy ideas and help inject them to your usual style of thinking, to push the boundaries of where you can go next to create a more sustainable, holistic, well-being experience for your clients and customers. I'm going to skip over this, but that's how we do it through design thinking. All of this we summarised into a report called The Wellness Movement and Wellness Pioneers. I've got a couple of copies with me today, but I can send it to everyone electronically. So if you're interested, please sing me or see M&A from Ogilvy afterwards, and I'm more than happy to share with you the full written report for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marion. Would you please stay with us for a couple of minutes? Ve şimdi değerli konuğumuza bugün anısına hediye takdim etmek üzere yönetim kurulu üyelerimizden Devrim Çubukçu'yu davet etmek istiyorum sahneye. We would like to present a gift.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's stunning. I'm feeling much better already for it. Thank you. That's stunning. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us. Değerli konumuza çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Ve buradan birkaç hatırlatma yaparak diğer paralel oturumlara geçeceğiz efendim. Bu yılda tüm katılımcılarımız yaka kartı içerisinde bulunan multinet yemek kartlarından yararlanabilecekler. Zorlu AVM yemek alanında birçok seçenekten öğlen yararlanabilirsiniz. Öğle yemeğimiz saat 12:30-14 arasında Zorlu AVM'nin içindeki alanda olacak. Yemek alanına ulaşmak için yönlendirmeleri takip edebilirsiniz, görevlerden yardım alabilirsiniz. Ayrıca kahve molaları ve öğle yemeği sonrasında stand alanımızı ziyaret etmenizi de önemli rica ediyoruz efendim. Hemen bir önemli hatırlatmamız daha var. Biliyorsunuz aralarımız biraz kısa oluyor. Konuşmacılarımızın katılımıyla paralel oturumlarımız 15 dakika sonra başlayacak. Bu arada Meydan Fuaya katındaki kahve ikramımızdan yararlanabilirsiniz. Ve unutmayın.